Hello, Christine with BetterLookingBiz.com. Today I want to show you how to organize your branding once and for all. In this tutorial, I want to cover a couple topics. I want to talk about the information that vendors really need from you. I want to talk about how I use Google Docs to create an effective brand standard. I want to talk about the use of your logos, how to define white space around and how to use them. I want to talk about how to find and organize your fonts and colors, even if you haven't been consistent. I want to talk about the additional information you should keep in your brand standard so you don't waste time digging for it later. And I want to talk about how to easily organize and share your files with your vendors. So let's talk real quick about Pinterest. I love Pinterest. I love the brand boards on Pinterest. They're beautiful, they're share worthy, they're full of inspiration, but they aren't very practical to manage if you're an entrepreneur who doesn't have a lot of excessive knowledge of Illustrator or Photoshop. I think that they're a super tool for, again, for inspiration and for sharing, but I have found that putting my brand standard in Google Docs was one of the best decisions I ever made because it has been so easy to manage. And I want to share how I've done that with you. And there's a template available for download if you'd like to create a brand standard in Google Docs for your brand. So let's go over to Google Docs. In this standard, I have defined the use of my logos for vendors or team members who are using them on graphics or other collateral. I want to make sure that everything is used consistently across the board. So in this case, what I've done is just created a simple standard using the table feature in Google Docs. And I have a 2-row table here, and it allows me to insert my logo, and the natural white space around defines how much white space you need to leave so that nothing encroaches on your logo. You definitely want to define this. And you want to get people to ask permission if something has to be too close or too tight to your logo, because it will muddy your brand if there's things overlaying or too close. It's just not a good use of logo. The second thing I have defined is the watermark and its usage. The favicon and or icon that I use kind of on its own or with other pieces of my brand needs to have its own white space. The icons within my brand, this is optional. You may or may not use a lot of icons. I do, and as I create new ones, I'm inserting them into this brand standard. I've also got my social media icons displayed. This is, like, again, just totally optional, but I find that it helps me remember what I've done and keep things consistent. The next piece that I've defined is the colors of my brand. I have primary colors that I use within the logo and as main colors for the website and other things. I have accent colors that I use on graphics and for inspiration and things like that, that just where I need to have additional colors. I'm always using these same colors so my brand stays consistent. I have defined the fonts that I use in my brand, and in this case, you don't have to show pictures of fonts. If you're sending this off to a designer or somebody who's going to work with your brand, all they need to know is what it looks like, and they can see what it looks like by clicking on the link that you provide, and they need the name of the font. You should own the fonts that you use for your brand. You should be able to create graphics with them. The next thing that I have on my brand standard is all my URLs, which I have found, ironically, I am coming here all the time to copy and paste these things, and I was always digging for them. It's like, what is my actual Twitter? I can't remember. And so I finally just put them in my brand standard. It's so much easier. I have my social media descriptions in here, and as I create different opt-ins for my social media descriptions, I'm going to copy and just paste them below and just keep track of all the ones I've used in case I want to go back to one. I don't have to remember what I said. I can just copy and paste it right into the description or the bio of my social media platform, and keep my social media descriptions consistent, make it easy for team members to add and remove things. I have my brand lingo for my team members if they're creating Twitter content or Instagram content. We'll make sure that we're kind of all consistently using the same lingo. I have my brand personality words, which I was very intentional about creating, and I described this process in a blog post on betterlookingbiz.com, so you can take a look and see how to create words that are the foundation for everything that you do. And the last thing that I have on here is my Dropbox link to my logo folder. And so this is a folder that if a vendor needs to grab a logo or a team member, it's super easy for them to locate the file. And it also allows me to create a master file. So if I make any changes to my logos, I just drop the newest one in there and remove the old one. So everybody's always accessing the most recent information. The beauty of this Google brand standard is that I can share this master document with people, and I set it to view only, not change. And anytime I add or remove something from it, every vendor I've ever shared it with will have the same information. I think this is super, super nice compared to creating a PDF file that you send over, because once you make a change to it, it becomes obsolete. So let's back up. I have kind of covered a couple different points in this, and so I want to make sure that we talk about everything I said I was going to talk about. I've talked about kind of how to define your logos right here using white space, showing the colors that are used, defining the different kinds of logos that you have. Make sure that you include them all on here. I've talked about what additional information to keep in your brand standard, which is down here. Fonts, social media URLs, descriptions, lingo, personality words, and add other things if you find yourself always accessing things or looking for things. And I talked about how to use Google Docs as an effective brand standard. Obviously, you can see this is going to be an effective tool for you. The next thing I want to talk about is the kind of information that vendors really need from you. As a designer, um, having a completed brand standard is really nice. But to be honest with you, what I really need from you is a vector file of your logo. And additional files are always nice. And I'm going to put a bullet list in the blog post associated with this so that you can see what other kinds of logos you should have. But the biggest thing that I need is a vector version of your logo, and that would be something like a EPS file or an AI file or a PDF, vector PDF file from Illustrator. And the other thing that I need to know is what colors that you use for your brand and what fonts that you use for your brand. And colors, what I really need is just this hex number. I don't need a bunch of other information. It's great to have that on your brand standard, but it's not entirely necessary. If you are printing, you want to have PMS colors, but again, we can generate PMS colors from your hex numbers using tools like Illustrator and Photoshop. The last thing I want to talk about is how to find and organize fonts and colors, even if you haven't been consistent. Let's go down to my fonts and colors here. So if you've sort of just started with a theme and you just started kind of branding off of that, and you weren't super intentional about choosing colors, and you're not sure what your colors are, you can find out what those are. If you've already got a website created and you want to find out what colors you used, you can go to this website called stylifyme.com and put in your URL, and it will generate all the colors that are used on your website and also the fonts that you used. And so you can use this as sort of the beginning point of your standard. It will help you start to get organized. So you can see here I've got my colors that I've used. It does not display the fonts correctly if you are pulling fonts from somewhere like fonts.com or Typekit. But that's okay. It will give you the name right here of the font used, the colors of the fonts used, and that's the information that you really need. So make sure you start consolidating your color and font information by copying and pasting hex numbers and font names. And you can see here, it also even gives me my little icons. So you can grab those and copy and paste them into your Google Docs and start creating a standard. And so this is a great tool, stylifyme.com. Grab your fonts and colors and get them inserted into your brand standard. And so what I've done is created a template for you that just has the areas for you to just insert things. So you can insert your logos inside the tables. You can insert your elements inside the tables. You can change your primary and secondary colors, and all you need to do here is right click. I'm on a PC, so we right click and grab the table properties and just change the color. Here is their palette of colors. If you want to create a custom hex color, just click on custom and then go and grab a color. For instance, let's just take one of these. Use this pretty salmon color here. I'm just going to copy and paste right into this spot, and it's going to show me a background of that color, and then I can just paste the hex number in. So proceed with defining your colors, defining your elements, defining your fonts, and just sit down in an afternoon and get this stuff organized. You'll feel so much better. The last thing I want to talk about is organizing your files. So let's take a look at this link down here. So I have a link to my logo file. Depending on what you need to share, you could create a folder structure that houses your logos, your elements, your photos, and your graphic templates. If you're really getting into this and creating a system for graphics, you're going to want to be able to organize your information into those 4 folders. The logo file should house the different kinds of your logos, and you can look at the blog post associated with this to see which kinds of logos you should have. Elements includes things like icons and patterns. Photos includes things like your avatars that you use, background photos for social media, brand photos that maybe will be used, in backgrounds of things and across different things like thank you pages and sales pages. If you can just get those all in one place, you're going to save yourself time later. Graphic templates are for things like inspiration graphics and social media platforms, sharing graphics. That's a little bit more advanced, and I'm going to cover that in our upcoming course on creating better looking blog video. I'm going to talk about how to create share graphics and creating a system for that. So stay tuned for that in case that's something you want to learn how to do. So let's go back to my brand standard, and I just wanted to just recap that this is something that once you get it organized, this is something that's going to be easy for you to manage. It's going to be easy for you to share. It's going to help you keep yourself consistent across all the graphics that you create and the ones that your team members and your vendors create for you. I just think it's been the best brand standard I've had to date, and I've created some really pretty ones. This one isn't super pretty, but it is so functional. So I would love to see you download the brand standard template and do this for your brand. If you have any questions about this brand standard, comment below. I will take time to answer those questions. The other place that you can ask questions is betterlookingbiz.com/ask. Provide us with feedback or ask us questions. Let us know what you want us to cover in future tutorials. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much.